heard me, bro. So now y'all mad because y'all fighters have to fight. So the fight critics, not the fighters, but the fight critics, y'all mad because I'm working smarter and not harder. Because I'm able to be in my 40s and still milk the game the way I want to milk the game. Oh, why don't he fight this dude? Why don't he fight that dude? Guess what? Because when God told me it was time to hang it up, I hung it up.
This is the thing with people having problem with Floyd Mayweather still doing exhibition boxing matches. Number one, they like to treat Floyd like he's still a professional fighter. I've even seen some people say this is a trash fight. This is a trash card. This is stuff like that. Like he's not a current active fighter. You know, he's a retired guy who's able to still make money. He's a retired boxer who people will still pay to go see fight. You know, and he's not trying to carry the industry on his back. But the fact is, I am an old fighter and people are still willing to pay to see me fight. Why wouldn't I capitalize on that? And this is the thing. They want Floyd Mayweather to take on any and all challenges. Listen to this. Regardless of how old he is. But when it comes time to detract or try to take away from Mayweather's legacy, one of the main things that they would like to say, which is a dead end argument, is that he fought guys when they were too old. But notice, Mayweather is never too old to take on the youngest lion from either MMA or boxing. Mayweather's never that old. If these people could have it, they would set up another Canelo Alvarez fight. Why? Because number one, these are the conditions in which Canelo Alvarez liked to fight. Somebody old, retired, slowed down and stuff like that. But this is the thing. While people were lobbying for that fight and talk about, yeah, if him and Canelo fight again, Canelo would definitely win. Well, number one, Canelo should win because the man is old enough. But this is the whole thing. Nobody cares if anybody fights up out of prime Floyd. If Floyd fought people out of their prime, then when was Floyd considered out of his? Because it has no gauge. It has no gauge when it comes to him. They will fight Floyd when he's 60 years old. And if somebody beat him, they will treat it like they beat a young pretty boy Floyd or something like that. That's exactly how they'll do it. And this is the thing. Everybody claims what Floyd does is bad for boxing. Floyd gets blamed for everything that's bad for boxing. But what I notice is it's okay for people to copy his same moves in which people said that if he does this, this is bad for boxing. But let somebody else do the same thing that Floyd did and nobody minds. People say fighting MMA fighters, that's bad for boxing. That's bad for boxing. He's fucking up boxing. Then why did the boxing world let Jake Paul and Logan Paul in the boxing game with open arms? I said it was bad for boxing. You know what they told me? To have an open mind. This helps the sport. It helps bring attention to the sport. You know, it's turning people on to boxing. All this stuff, when I said Logan Paul and all that shit is bad for boxing, this is what they said. They embraced the whole MMA thing. When Floyd fought an MMA fighter, it's bad for boxing. But notice when other fighters like Canelo or Oscar De La Hoya is talk about fighting MMA fighters, these guys have nothing to say. So even in a retired state, he still sets the standard and the trend in which these guys follow behind and frolic behind.
Yeah. And it's just like this. If I don't want to give somebody an interview, guess what? They gotta do? Like, okay, that's his prerogative. Do what you want to do. You know, I'm gonna make shit shape with or without Floyd. I'm proud of him though. Whatever he want to do, that's his business. How can we talk about building the sport of boxing? How can we talk about building the sport of boxing if the critic won't talk about the main piece to the puzzle of boxing? If I'm not good for the sport, then why are you always talking about me?
Always.
I would if it wasn't a big concern, then then why you talking about me anyway?
And that's another big point that Floyd has, and I've always brought it up. If Floyd is so bad for boxing, if he's such a cherry picker, if he's such a runner, if he's just all these things, then why even bring his name up? How come a Canelo Alvarez first line of defense is to bring up Floyd Mayweather? Why is that their first line of defense if he's so this and if he's so that? And a question I've been asking for a long time. Before other people came around and they could jump on bandwagons, they told you for the longest time that Manny Pacquiao is better than Floyd. Okay, his legacy is better than Floyd. Being a 8 division world champion is more potent and more important in boxing. His legacy doesn't compare to Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is the greatest fighter of all time. Manny Pacquiao is fighter of the year. We've all heard that. If that was really true, how come they don't use Manny Pacquiao as a template just like they use Floyd Mayweather, somebody who they say is all these things? How come a Canelo Alvarez fan is not concerned with Canelo Alvarez being bigger, greater, or having a better resume than Manny Pacquiao? Why? Y'all put Manny Pacquiao up so high above Floyd even though he beat him. That's another conversation for another day. But even though he beat him, y'all say that Manny Pacquiao was so much greater. If he's so much greater, then how come Manny Pacquiao's name is never brought up in comparison to how y'all use Floyd's name? That doesn't make no sense. Why would you take the bottom of the barrel to compare it to your so-called great fighter and say how much better he is than this person who you said wasn't never shit, who cheated, who cherry-picked, who did all this other shit? Why are you using that as a comparison? Why not use the person or the people that you said were better than him? The fact that you don't use these people that you say are better than him lets you know you guys hold Floyd up to the highest pinnacle while simultaneously hating on that pinnacle that you are admiring. You know it's true, because why don't y'all use Manny? Why don't y'all compare Canelo to Manny Pacquiao? Why don't you compare his greatness to Manny Pacquiao? How come Manny Pacquiao's name is never brought up? Why are y'all never putting boxers side by side to Manny Pacquiao? Y'all say undisputed is this, that's why it's better than Floyd's legacy and what. But is it better than Manny Pacquiao's legacy? The guy that y'all said for years is better than him. Why do y'all keep dragging Floyd? Because at the end of the day, they're too much of a hater. They're too racist. They're too bigot. They're too stuck in their ways just to say that, yo, I don't like this guy, but I can't knock what he done in the sport. That's very simple for anybody to say. Any halfway decent human being can say that. So, I mean, it is what it is.
And my thing is this: I'm not even fighting, so I can't be stepping on anybody's toes because I'm not fighting in America.
That's another good point. You know, when I first heard about Floyd fighting, I was told that it was a real boxing match. But once again, that's what you get for even listening to people. Man, if people tell you anything in boxing, ask them to give you a source. That's just where it's at nowadays. I don't care how big or how small it is. You know, just ask for a source. But I was told it was a real fight. It wasn't just no exhibition. You know, so I'm like, damn, he putting on a real fight, and you know, he does it the same day that Gervonta Tank Davis has his press conference. It's fucked up, you know, and I still stand by that. You know, fucked up. But what he's saying is, he said, look, I'm not fighting in America, okay? So I'm not taking the American fan base. And he said, I'm not fighting on pay-per-view. This is what he say, okay? I'm not too sure, because he said, I don't know. He said, but I believe I'm not fighting on pay-per-view. If he's not fighting in America, and if he's not fighting on pay-per-view, he's right. Floyd ain't taking nothing from nobody. You know, and he said they offered him $1 million to go out there and do that press conference that day. He said that he didn't want to do it, but, you know, he kind of didn't have a choice. Who knows how true that is? But the facts still remain. He not fighting in America. And if the fight is not pay-per-view, he ain't taking nothing from nobody. And he ain't stepping on Gervonta Tank Davis' toes like we've been led to believe, or what it looks like. Like I said, I don't know how true the pay-per-view thing is. You know, my opinion, how I feel about it, really depends on, are you selling this on pay-per-view? You know, and if he is, then yeah, you is stepping on your own fighter's toes, but you're not doing nothing to nobody else in the boxing game. You know what I'm saying? And people can say what they want, but people love to speak on Gervonta Tank Davis' situation in terms of trying to disrespect Floyd, but these same people are the one who talk shit about Tank and don't want to give him credit. It's just an opportunity to talk about Floyd. So for this moment, they'll side with Tank and pretend like they care how he's being treated over there at Mayweather Promotions and all that shit. Y'all know this shit just like I do. These motherfuckers is very strategic about what they choose and pick about whose back they gonna jump behind, because it serves a purpose of talking about somebody that they don't like. When in all actuality, they don't fucking like Tank. They don't give a fuck about Tank. Half these people talk about Tank, don't give two shits about Tank, and talk shit about Tank all the way through his fucking career. But now, all of a sudden, they want to jump in and talk about, yeah, you know, he needs to get Weather from Mayweather Promotions. No, the fuck he doesn't. I don't care what problems they having over there, or what problems Gervonta Davis is having over there at Mayweather Promotions. No other place is going to do him better than what he is getting done at Mayweather Promotions. And that's primarily because when it comes to Top Rank, when it comes to Golden Boy, when it comes to all these other promotional companies, okay, they have shown you time and time again, and you have been told by the fighters time and time again, that they do not know how to promote black fighters or even put them as a priority on their label. This is how Al Heyman was able to get so many black fighters, because he knew that. Okay, he knew that they don't get treated fucking well. The same shit that Terrence Crawford is talking about to this day is the same thing that Floyd Mayweather was talking about when he was signed to Bob Arum. It's the same thing that Charlo was talking about when he was signed to Golden Boy. And we all know about Golden Boy's emails, but everybody want to highlight racism except when it's done to a black person or a black fighter. Everybody, I don't know what, huh? What are you talking about? There ain't no racism in boxing. What are you talking about? But let somebody like Devin Haney say, I'm not losing to no white boy. Oh, that's the most racist shit. This is racism. But I thought it wasn't no racism in boxing. Make your fucking mind up. Racism only exists to them when they feel black people are doing it, or a black fighter is doing this to some other fighter or some black fan. That's when shit is racist. But if you point out, hey, what the fuck Kovalov said is out of line. Hey, what the fuck Jim Lampley did is out of line. Hey, what the fuck Golden Boy did was out of line. What are you talking? What do you mean? What are you talking about? There's no racism in boxing. They openly love to play dumb about it. They openly love to play dumb about it. Them is just facts at the end of the fucking day.
I'm fighting over in UAE. I'm fighting somewhere way far away. And I'm not even fighting on pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's going to be streamed. So I'm not really sure if it's streamed or pay-per-view.
Right.
I'm kind of hearing a little bit. Like I told you before, I don't really know what's going on. They pay. I show up and play.